Let's start with the great cosmic joke of American politics. Donald Trump and his obsession with loyalty. Not competence, not character, loyalty the kind that makes a mob boss blush. From day one, he demanded absolute, unblinking devotion, and for years, the Republican Party delivered like trained seals waiting for a fish. Because they knew what happens if you don't clap for the dear leader, you get a primary challenger. Your inbox fills with death threats, and a horde of red-hatted keyboard warriors show up at your house, screaming about the deep state. But here's the thing. Fear only works until something bigger comes along. And folks, that something just walked in wearing a name tag that says Epstein cover-up. This isn't just another scandal, it's political. Chernobyl. You can't spin your way out of this one, not when the fallout might include criminal charges. And now, the same people who once groveled for Trump like he was the second coming are ripping into each other like rats on a sinking ship. What we're seeing isn't a routine DC meltdown or some petty House GOP slap fight. This is full-blown friendly fire. Take Mike Johnson, the human welcome mat previously known as Speaker. He's standing around pretending to lead while Pam Bondi, one of Trump's most faithful attack dogs, gets tossed under the bus like yesterday's campaign flyer. Her job? Gone the second this Epstein-shaped cloud became too toxic for even St. Mike to handle. We're going to break all of that down. Johnson's betrayal, Bondi's fall, and the latest MAGA circular firing squad now detonating in real time. But before diving headfirst into the wreckage, do the channel a favor. Hit the like button, grab that subscribe bell, and help us keep dragging these political pyromaniacs into the sunlight. Now, let's talk about the latest dose of radioactive reality coming out of Epstein's island. 14 new photos and videos just dropped, the kind of thing that makes you wish for an extra shower. Bedrooms, bathrooms, lush exteriors, a no trespassing sign that clearly didn't apply to the powerful or their friends. These images come straight from a November 18th letter sent by Congressman Robert Garcia and fellow Democrats on the House Oversight Committee to the Attorney General of the U.S. Virgin Islands, demanding every scrap of evidence they've got, documents, investigations, anything with Epstein's fingerprints on it. Important to note, this isn't about the bill Congress passed to pry the Epstein files out of the DOJ. This is a parallel effort led by the Virgin Islands request. Garcia said these new visuals offer a disturbing look into Epstein's world. Understatement of the century. You can see some of them on screen now, and if you feel your stomach turning, good. That's the appropriate response when decades of corruption, power, and silence start bubbling back to the surface. Because what's about to happen next? You already know how that ends. Let's be honest. When politicians start dumping photos and videos, it's not because they suddenly found their conscience in a desk drawer. It's because the pressure finally got hot enough to burn. These new Epstein images are out there to force transparency, to stitch together the full horror show of his crimes, and to make damn sure the survivors aren't erased or ignored yet again. The message is simple. This fight doesn't stop until there's accountability, and that includes every last file, every last name, every last connection. Which is why the demand lands with such force. It's time for President Trump to release everything. No redactions, no games, no stalling. Here's the thing. This isn't some one-off document dump. It's just the latest wave in a steady drip of files, images, and records flowing out of the Oversight Committee ever since the Epstein investigation finally became too big to bury. The focus is now locked on Epstein, the paper trail around him, and the people who enabled, excused, or looked the other way. And with every new release, the political cost of pretending this is old news gets higher. So Anna turns to Lisa and asks the obvious question, what jumps out when you start digging through this pile in real time? Because it's all still coming in, still loading, still updating, and every new image adds another ugly piece to the picture. Lisa points out something big. We've seen Epstein's islands before, but mostly from 30,000 feet drone shots, satellite images, long lens voyeurism. This is different. These photos drag you inside, right up to the buildings where the alleged abuse took place, the spaces that survivors have described, but the public has never really seen this clearly. And then there's the other ticking bomb, Lisa. One of the photos released by House Oversight Democrats shows a phone with contact entries, real names, real numbers, real people. Among them, Richard Kahn and Darren Endike, the accountant and the lawyer, who just happened to be the co-executors of Epstein's estate. That tells you everything you need to know about how close the committee is getting to the operational core of Epstein's world. These aren't distant onlookers. These are the guys holding the keys to the vault. Now, let's talk about Robert Garcia. The work he's done as the ranking member on oversight hasn't just been solid, it's been relentless. Without him hammering away, there would be no Epstein birthday book, no tidal wave of internal emails, no Maxwell correspondence, and no paper trail tying Donald Trump into Epstein's orbit in ways Trump's people would really prefer you never see. Garcia's pressure is the only reason this mountain of evidence is now sitting in the public record instead of locked in a drawer at some law firm, and because the committee kept its boot firmly on the Epstein estate's neck. We're now staring at these new, deeply unsettling photos and videos, not as rumors, not as whispers, but as hard proof. But here's what they really demonstrate. Political pressure works. When Democrats stop playing nice and stay aggressive, the truth keeps leaking out. As that MSNBC breakdown pointed out, you can also see just how many connected people orbited Epstein, people with names, jobs, and lawyers who can be subpoenaed, forced to testify, and dragged into hearings Trump's crew can't control anymore. And let's be clear, the usual MAGA fixers can't save this one. Pam Bondi can't put this genie back in the bottle. Kash Patel can't spin it away with a soundbite. And Donald Trump, for all his bluster, can't stop this train from barreling forward. There's nowhere left to hide. No quiet backroom deal that unreleases these documents or unshows these images. That's why the gaps in the Epstein files, the missing pieces, the scrubbed pages, the things that look like they were deleted in a panic, might end up being the most revealing part of the whole story. But don't mistake that for saying the existing files aren't crucial. They are absolutely vital. They're the skeleton of the case, the blueprint of the network, the map of who knew what and when. House Democrats understand that, which is why they're pushing harder than ever, even beyond that earlier vote forcing the release of the files. They're tightening the screws, and in the process, Pam Bondi is being shoved into line while Mike Johnson, eternal political cockroach that he is, just stands back and lets her take the hit, even if it means the quiet, ugly end of her career. You already know how this ends. The truth comes out, and the people who thought they were untouchable find out they were very, very wrong. When lawmakers from both parties suddenly start demanding an urgent briefing, it means someone in power is out of excuses and out of time. A bipartisan group is now pressing Attorney General Pam Bondi for an immediate sit-down over new secret Epstein intel that her own team claims is so explosive it justifies fresh investigations and might conveniently slow-walk the full release of the Epstein files. In a letter sent Wednesday, they gave her a hard deadline, Friday. By then, she either shows them the evidence she keeps hinting at, or everyone will know this new information was just a political smoke bomb. Here's the thing. These aren't just the usual partisan suspects. Republicans Thomas Massie and Lisa Murkowski have joined Democrats Ro Khanna, Ben Ray Lujan, and Jeff Merkley in telling Bondi to put up or shut up, pointing directly back to her November 19 press conference where she claimed there was fresh information on figures tied to Epstein. In their letter, they're spelling it out. If there really is new intel being used as a reason to delay or narrow the release, they want to see it in full in either a classified or unclassified briefing no later than the 5th of December 2025. That tells you everything you need to know about how little trust they have in Bondi's word right now. The stakes are huge because this all sits on top of the Epstein Files Transparency Act, which forces the Justice Department to cough up all unclassified records, documents, communications, and investigative materials on Epstein by December 19. With just a 30-day window, the lawmakers say they need to understand any new evidence or procedural hurdles that could interfere with DOJ hitting that statutory deadline. Translation: if Bondi and her crew are about to drag their feet, Congress wants that on the record, in writing, before the clock runs out. They even go out of their way to say they're trying to help DOJ carry out the law, which is polite D, C, code for we're watching you very closely. And yet, Even as the law explicitly says this information can't be withheld just because it's politically sensitive or embarrassing to powerful people, there are already alarms going off about a special redaction project inside DOJ. Internal correspondence reported last week shows FBI Director Kash Patel mobilized roughly 1,000 special agents to scrub and redact the Epstein files as part of a frantic, large-scale operation. The kind of thing you don't do unless there's a lot in there that some folks really don't want to see in print. Critics are openly saying what everyone's thinking. Those documents may contain highly embarrassing details about Donald Trump's past relationship with a convicted pedophile, and the redaction army looks a whole lot like a political firewall disguised as process. And now, because this White House can't even manage its own damage control, a pro-Trump outlet is already reporting that Bondi and Patel are basically in political purgatory, waiting to be fired as the Epstein scandal spirals. Mike Johnson, ever the guy who loves power but hates responsibility, has finally decided he's not going to stand in the way of more Epstein-related disclosures. He's thrown up his hands and effectively said, not my mess. If Ro Khanna, Thomas Massie, and the rest want to drag DOJ into the sunlight, that's on them. Johnson doesn't have the muscle to stop it anymore, and he sure doesn't have the stomach for this fight. You already know how this ends. Bondi and Patel take the fall. The files keep coming, and the truth gets closer every day. Mike Johnson didn't just stumble into this. He bought Donald Trump a 60-day delay on the Epstein files by playing dumb and refusing to swear in Adelaida Grijalva. Then suddenly, like magic, Matt Van Epps wins a race in Tennessee, and now he absolutely has to be sworn in this week. Funny how the sacred congressional calendar turns into a cement wall whenever someone might vote to expose the pedophiles the president keeps protecting. But when it's a loyal MAGA foot soldier coming to town, that calendar moves faster than a coke dealer on payday. No delays, no hand-wringing, no procedural sermons. Just open the door and shove him onto the House floor. Good to know how the rules really work. Here's the thing. Johnson doesn't want to be anywhere near the Epstein mess anymore because it's ripping through Donald Trump's administration like a brush fire in dry grass. The people who used to swear they'd walk through hell for Trump, the loudest MAGA evangelists, the influencers, the clout-chasing podcasters, are suddenly edging away, recalculating, and quietly turning on him as this gets uglier by the day. Some of these voices have massive audiences that are hardcore MAGA, or at least MAGA curious, and they can read the room even if Trump can't. You're hearing it in the comedians, the podcasters, even from someone like Tucker Carlson, the once untouchable Fox golden boy. He's out there trashing the Republican Party as useless, saying he hates them, calling them betrayers, and strongly hinting that Trump doesn't want these documents out because they could blow back on him personally. He doesn't have to say Epstein every 5 seconds for the point to land. The subtext is loud enough to rattle the windows. And listen to the way they talk now. Nothing I voted for happened. Are you happy with anything? That's not a pep rally. That's a political wake. A lot of Tucker's audience still leans conservative or Republican, maybe not diehard party loyalists, but definitely in the neighborhood. These are the voters who either show up for Republicans or hand Congress over to Democrats. So when the tone shifts from worshipful to resentful, when they stop defending Trump and start questioning the whole project, that's not just bad messaging. That's a 5-alarm fire for Trump's GOP heading into an election. Take Michael Savage, old school conservative talk radio, early Trump backer, Trump in the Oval Office, the whole package. Now he's out there saying the American worker is getting crushed, the economy feels brutal, regardless of what the Trump White House says, prices are too high, inflation is too high, and the jobs aren't there for regular people, especially in tech. He's not reading from a DNC script. He's just saying what his audience is living every day. And here's what that all adds up to. This Epstein scandal is so grotesque, so radioactive, that even parts of MAGA world are peeling off. The thing that once felt impossible, the base breaking faith with Trump, now feels inevitable. And as brutal as the Epstein implosion is for him, it's not even the only slow-motion car crash on the road, because while this is burning in the background, the Republican Party is busy opening yet another event in its never-ending corruption Olympics. You already know how that story goes. But this one out of Nevada isn't subtle. Governor Joe Lombardo just got exposed as exactly what he is. A guy who folds like wet cardboard the second a billionaire hits his caller ID. Nevada OSHA caught Elon Musk's Boring Company running its Las Vegas tunnels like a discount death trap. Firefighters with chemical burns, a worker with a crushed pelvis, another nailed by an electrical panel, and still Musk skated. Classic Elon. Rules for everyone else, special exemption for him. Regulators said, flat out, the company knowingly violated safety rules. But the moment one of Musk's executives rang the governor's office, the big, bad citations just disappeared. The fines went away, the meeting record vanished, and Elon whistled while the governor snapped to attention. That tells you everything you need to know about how Republican governance really works when money walks in the room. Now, picture being a regular worker or a small business owner in Nevada and thinking you'd ever get that kind of treatment. You'd be buried in fines, audits, and lectures about personal responsibility before you even found a lawyer. But Elon Musk, the richest man in the history of the planet, gets the state to look the other way while his outfit is literally dumping toxic muck and drilling fluids into Las Vegas infrastructure and manholes, trashing the system and burning people's skin off. And Lombardo can't even be bothered to come up with a halfway convincing cover story. He just makes it brutally obvious. Elon and the Boring Company come first. Nevadan safety doesn't even make the list. Here's the thing. This isn't some complicated gray area regulatory dispute. Lawyers and former regulators from both parties are saying the same thing. Lombardo politicized OSHA, trampled normal procedure, and put workers at risk to protect a billionaire donor's bottom line. Nevadans deserve a governor who gives a damn about safety, honesty, and accountability, not a concierge who deletes records and rescinds fines every time Elon Musk frowns. This is straight up corruption. It's not subtle, it's not clever, and it's not going away unless people drag it into the sunlight and keep it there. And you already know Elon's playbook. He inserts himself anywhere there's power to grab and consequences to dodge, whether it's environmental rules, workplace safety, or basic accountability. If you want more of this exposed, every scam, every backroom favor, every cushy loophole for the ultra-rich, then keep this pressure going, hit subscribe, drop a like, and if you made it this far, leave a blue heart in the comments so the algorithms know you're not asleep at the wheel. Keep fighting. Don't let them shut you up. Don't let them wear you down. And until next time, stay loud.